Just listen to our learning. You're going to see it. Start on Yud Aleph Amud Beis, the first of the wide lines. Tanya Idach. Taught in a brisa. Before we were talking about mezuzah and doorways and different houses. Now we jump to Negoyim, Tzaras, on a house. The Tanya Idach was taught in a brisa, in another brisa. Beis HaKnesses, Beis HaShutvim, Beis HaIsha. A shul, a house that belongs to partners, and a house that belongs to women. Mitamin b'negoyim, they can still become tummy with a nega, with tzaras. It says pshita. That's obvious. It says the base. It says a house, and this is a house. Gemara says, well, Mahu the Tema, I could have thought differently. It says Ubasher loy habayas, and you will come to him that has the house. Means the kohen will come to the owner of the house. It says loy habayas, to him that has the house. There's the loy. Loy v'layla. Ah, very nice. To him, there may be some more on the shop. To him and not to her. See, if she has a house, that's not good. It's not gonna. It says in the pasuk, loy. Loy means him. It's a masculine pronoun. Loy v'layla hen says to him and not to them. And that what would them be? The shutvim and the Beis HaKnesses. Kamash Malan, no. So the Bryce is a big chiddush. It says that there's tzaras even on a house, even on a Beis HaKnesses, on a woman's house, and on a partnership. Where it says, well, it's a big chiddush, but maybe it's taka correct. This is how the Rebbe Rashab writes. He wrote contrasim for the yeshiva, the Lubavitch yeshiva, pamphlets. So he wrote Kuntres Chaim, Kuntres Avodah, Kuntres Tila. Those were for the Bakum, I think. So in one of them, in Kuntres Chaim, he writes how you're supposed to learn Gemara. So he quotes a sefer from Rabbi Yitzchak Kalpentine or something. I'm not pronouncing it right. But in there he says that the way you approach a Gemara, the first thing you're supposed to say is Pshita. This is obvious. And then after they explain to you why it wasn't so obvious. And you say, well, if it wasn't so obvious, maybe it's actually not true. You know, maybe that other side that's telling me is not correct, and I have to figure out the other. And this is like just a model of that style of learning. He wants you to do it with every piece of Gemara. Right? It's not, no, the Gemara doesn't say Pshita. You say, I don't know, Arba, you're learning Baba Kama, Arba Vesnazikin. Of course there's Arba Vesnazikin. I looked in the Torah, but he's telling me, no, it has to tell me that I'm not counting those other 24 of Rabchia or whatever. Oh, so maybe okay. So maybe it's taka correct. If it's taka such a chiddush, and maybe it's that you don't say that tzaras should be on a house of partners, of women, of a show. Maybe it's taka correct. The Gemara says no. Amakra, the Beis HaKnesses. It says in your house of the land of your inheritance. So all of these are your inheritance, the land of your inheritance. So then, really, we should go back and say, so what's the chiddush? Okay, so Ella la ilamali. So then, what are we getting from that pasuk that you said only him, right? That's what we excluded this. Gemara says, Mishimiyachid beisay loy. Let's take a look at this. The Gemara says, it's talking about Abasha loy habayis, that to him is the house. What does that mean? That this is the guy that doesn't like to lend anything out. They ask him, you have something? He says, he says, no, I don't have it. He doesn't want to lend. So he's afraid you're going to break it or something. He doesn't like to lend anything out. So what happens is Hashem shows everyone that he really does have it. And he has to empty out his house because there's tzaras. So everyone sees what he has on his front lawn. He says, oh, I asked you to talk to him. You told me you didn't have. Now we see it's over there. What are you saying? Okay. This excludes someone that lends his items to other people that they don't get tzaras. If you lend it out, then you don't get tzaras. Yeah. Ah, very good. I was expecting some questions here. Yes, it's the first question. So what does that have to do with Lashon Hara? I was also expecting a question about, so I don't understand. So the guy that's stingy, he's the guy that finds the treasure, and the guy that lends it out, he doesn't deserve the treasure. It's like, this in the world, it's supposed to be a treasure. There's a lot of questions on this. Okay. There's a shita in the Gemara Sanhedrin, that no one ever became a Ben Seder or Myra. There was never a near Nidachas, and there was never a house with its house. Those three. Now, each one of those, the Gemara then says that, oh no, there was a Ben Seder Myra, I even sat on his grave. There was a Ir Nidachas, I was over there, I saw it. And then there was a house of Tzara, each one. The Gemara comes in and says, no, it can't be. But anyway, there is an opinion that says it. Okay. So it has to do with what the Gemara did over there. It made it basically impossible for anyone to ever. But certainly it says that the voice needs to sound the same. And if the voice of the mother sounds the same, then she was probably not able to conceive. She has a man's voice. She's probably an islandess, it's called, where she can't conceive. And so how is there a child? And then by the Ir Nidachas, it says that there can't be even a mezuzah there because you have to burn everything. And then by Tzaras, it says it needs to be in the corner, exactly in both walls. Kirei Sabayas. It basically makes like an almost impossible such a scenario. Okay. Basic Knesses mi Metame ben Goyim. We mentioned before about a shul. That a shul is Metame ben Goyim. Where do we get it from? Beisar Sachuzascha. Tanya. We have a brayso. Yachal yobati knesiyas abati midrashas metamen ben Goyim. We see the problem already. Maybe it's possible that shuls and Beis Medrash is going to get tzaras. Talmud Laimar. V'ashal lo yabayis. Kain comes to the one that has the house. The house needs to be designated for this fellow. And this house is not designated for him. It belongs to the community. The Gemara says, like kasha. It's not a problem. How do you resolve a contradiction in the process? There's different ways. The first way is you say it's machlekes. So, like kasha. Harab meya harabana. What we'll do is we'll say like this. The brayso before that said that there is tzaras on a house, that's Reb Meir's opinion, on a shul. The brayso over here that says there's no tzaras on a shul, in other words, even if there's a spot, it doesn't come tummy. That's the opinion of the Rabbanan. The Tanya was taught in a brayso, basic knesset. She's but basic knesset. Let's say there's a shul that has the upstairs, on the side, where the shamish lives. So then, chayev b'mezuzah. It's chayev b'mezuzah. You have to put a mezuzah there because someone lives there. But if there's no one living there, so look at this, a regular shul. Reb Meir mechayev, Reb Meir says that you're chayev, and the Chachamim say that you're not. What we're going to do is we're going to say if you're chayev mezuzah, it's also going to be susceptible to tzaras because it's considered an individual's house or your house or whatever. So if that's the case, then what do we have here? We have Reb Meir saying that you're chayev in mezuzah. That means that Reb Meir holds a shul can get tzaras. And the Champaichim, it's part of mezuzah. That means that a shul can't get tzaras. You could say it differently. There's another way of answering a contradiction. You don't have to say it's a machlekes. What you can do is you can say that the case is different. This price is talking about one case. But like kasha, it's not a problem. The first price that says that it gets tummy from the guy, and why? Because the shamish lived upstairs. This is less based dira because no one lived there, right? So it's both the Rabbanon's opinion that says normally a shul doesn't get tzaras, but the brayso before that said it does. It's because someone lived there. You could say that both of them is cases where no one is living there. So how come before there was a tzaras? It depends. If it's from a big city or if it's from a small village, if it's a Chabad house. If it's a Chabad house, then someone owns it. If it's in the big city, so it's like the kaisel, I'm imagining. Who owns the kaisel? Who's responsible? I'm sure there's someone responsible. But. Okay, the krachim ein metame ben goyim. You want to say that in the large cities where people just gather together, that's not considered a real So that there's no one there that takes responsibility. There's no owner to it. That's what you want to say, and therefore it doesn't get tzaras. But we have a brisa. Achuzaschem etamim benegayim ve'en Yerushalayim etamim benegayim. Okay, we have to go a little further to get to the point of the brisa. But what we're saying over here is that there's no such thing as tzaras in Yerushalayim. Tzaras on a house. Eretz achuzaschem, only in the land of your inheritance. But Yerushalayim is not considered your inheritance. We're going to see in a minute, because Yerushalayim, not necessarily, according to one opinion, wasn't divided amongst the tribes. No one actually got that. That's my spot. So, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Ani lo shemati al makom mikdash bilvad. Rabbi Yehuda says, I only heard that the Beis Hamikdash doesn't get tzaras. I didn't hear about Yerushalayim. Whatever the case is, one opinion is Yerushalayim, one opinion is the Beis Hamikdash. Whatever the case is, neither of them said that a shul doesn't get tzaras. It's either Yerushalayim doesn't get tzaras or the Beis Hamikdash. But no one said that a shul of a big city doesn't get isn't susceptible to tzaras. The Gemara says, "Ema Amar Rabbi Yehuda ani lishmati alamakom mekudesh bilvad." Change the word a little bit, and then it's going to help us understand this. What we'll do is we'll say, Rabbi Yehuda didn't say makom mikdash bilvad. He said makom mekudesh bilvad. Not just the Beis Hamikdash. I only heard the Beis Hamikdash. That's what he said originally. I only heard that the Beis Hamikdash doesn't get tzaras. Now he's switching it. I only heard that sanctified places don't get tzaras, which could be holy places, which is referring to a shul as well. Yeah. Mikdash Eitiro, it refers to a Mikdash Mat as well. You have to fear the Beis Hamikdash. It means you have to fear the shul. Yeah, be in awe, to treat it with respect. Okay. Micah Miflagi, what's the machlokes here between the Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda? Tanakam Savar Yerushalayim le'nischalkel l'shvatim. Tanakam holds Yerushalayim wasn't divided up to the tribes, and therefore no one individually owns it, and that's why there's no tzaras in the house in Yerushalayim. Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was something about the difference in Yerushalayim, regarding a kesem in Hilchos Nida. I don't remember the details of it, but if ksamim, a kesem, a stain, needs to be on something that's tamei. Something different in Yerushalayim, that some things don't become tamei, and therefore the halacha changes in Yerushalayim. Should be very interesting. So where are you calling from? Okay. Rabbi Yehuda said Yerushalayim nischalkel l'shvatim. Rabbi Yehuda says no, it was divided up to the tribes, and therefore Yerushalayim can get tzaras on the house. It was only the Beis Hamikdash or Makom Mekudesh. The Plukta Dani Tanai, and it follows a different machlokes. The Tanya was taught in a brisa, Mahaya b'chelkei shel Yehuda. What part of the Beis Hamikdash was in the portion of Yehuda? Yehuda is one of the tribes, right? So it says Harabayas Halishkes Vazar. So if you're walking into the Beis Hamikdash, coming from the east to the west, so the first half of the Beis Hamikdash belonged to Yehuda. Azara, Ezra's Nashim, and the rooms that are on the side. I'm sorry, and somewhere. And the rest is going to go to Binyamin. But there's going to be like a line that's going to divide the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash is like a rectangle. And we don't have the whole thing. But, yeah, I'm not sure. No, this doesn't have the chambers on the side. This is just been in a very, very colonnade. But it's missing So from the east, the eastern side of the Beis Hamikdash belongs to Yehuda. Maya b'chelkei shel Binyamin, what was in the portion of Binyamin? Ulam v'heichel beis Kodshei Kodashim. This part. The ulam, the heichel, all of those chambers, right across by the Mizbeach. Okay, now there's one thing over here. Oh, that's great. We have a picture. Yeah. Look at that. See what they did over here? They made the colors so you can see. So here's the sanctuary, and the Mizbeach is right there. And there's a little line that sticks out. We're not seeing it because it goes underneath the Mizbeach, but that means that Yehuda had the Mizbeach. And the Kodesh HaKadoshim and all of that was in Binyamin's side. And really the Mizbeach was supposed to be in Binyamin's side also. There was just like a strip that like stuck up into Binyamin's area, which was the Mizbeach. It was like a what do they call those Indian territories? They're in some other country, in some other state. Yeah, it's absorbed. Yeah, well, right. Basically, that the line of Binyamin had to go around the Mizbeach because Yehuda was absorbed, protruding.
You know, if the Tanakhama is correct and there wasn't a division of Yerushalayim, then it makes you wonder what Rashi was saying when he says that Binyamin cried over the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash in his portion.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how we're going to learn that.
Well, geographically, it's still there, right? It's just an unbelong property-wise.
Uh-huh. Enclave? Is that what it's called? Let's see. Let's go further. Binyamin HaTzadik Binyamin HaTzadik was concerned about it, was pained by this every day. Rashi says if someone has like an itch, a skachech, it's like an itch, but it's something that he's trying to get every day, and it's bothering him. He wants to get that area, that area of the Mizbeach. It's just coming into his area. He wants to have it. Therefore, Binyamin merited. He became the host for Hashem. Between his shoulders a rest. I guess it means a rest, talking about the Aron. Yes. Okay. And the following Tana holds that Yerushalayim was not divided. So we just said an opinion, a brisa that says Yerushalayim was divided. Then we're going to quote a brisa that says Yerushalayim wasn't divided. The Tanya was taught in a brisa, Maskirim Batim Yerushalayim. Can't rent houses in Yerushalayim. Where did they stay? I guess you have to just let them. It's not their own. Going to be some comment to how this works. The people, how did the people live there? What do? You just, what's it called when you squatters? Rabbi Elazar Tzaddik Aimer, Aflei Mitis. You can't even rent beds. Whatever the case is, Lefikach, Iris Kachim, Baliash Bezichn, Neitlim, Esim Bezraya. The hides, when people would stay in some place, they would bring a carbon. And the hide, if it would be an oila, it would go to the koyanim. If it's a shlamim, they keep the hide. So, what do they do with it? They want to schlep it back to the house? No, they leave it over there wherever they stayed, and we'll stay by that person. So, because over here, no one owned that house, so Baliash Bezichnen, the strong people, would come. Baliash Bezichnen sounds like the hosts would come and take it Bezraya with strength. The hosts would take it by force. I think what it means is that it didn't naturally belong to them. They had to come and grab it, I think. From this you see that it's the way of the land for a person to leave his jugs and the hides to his host. This maybe would be his empty soda cans. They can get 5 cents. That's what it is. What's a jug? A jug is just clay. It's nothing. And then the hide is just a lot of work. But I guess it's a lot of work, but it becomes leather. Okay, so in this, And this Bryce is telling me that no one actually owned Yerushalayim. No one owned their houses in Yerushalayim. With the Kvarim Mitame Ben Agayim, we said that when it comes to a shul, you said if it's a small village, shul, a Chabad house, so then that could get saras. Tani, but it's taught in the Brayso la'achuzat shich b'shuaisa. It says for inheritance until it's conquered. Let's say they conquered it, but they didn't take care of dividing it up. Let's say they said, okay, conquered, and we designate it. Is this yours? And and they didn't divide it to. We know which tribe, but we didn't divide it to which general family. Let's say it was divided to the general family, but it wasn't divided within the family who gets it. So Talmud Laimar, it has to be totally divided up until like the person can actually, sell it or something. It has to be totally his. And here, even though it's a small village and it's a shul and there's people responsible, but it's not someone's individually. And Tzuras apparently needs to be someone like an individual person. So maybe Yoel is asking a question. Yoel is asking that we said before about Shutvim. Maybe we can just answer that it's Shutvim for the community. Let me see if someone asks that. You hear what he's asking?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yes, he's going to say. I was going to ask that. I don't know. And for that, I'm going to need the commentaries. That's a good question. The Gemara over here says, it would be. Yeah, you need to show it. Machvarta, chivar means white. It's more clear to answer the way we answered before, which was that we said that someone is living in it, and that's why it was chayv b'mezuzah. We gave the answer to one. Okay. Next Gemara, maskinin lai kayan acher. They prepare another kayan for the kayan gadol. Why? Because in case it becomes tummy, and in Yom Kippur, so we need someone to do the service, right? This week's parsha. It says pshita. It's obvious the following case. Ira by psol kaidem tamid shel shachar machan chanayse b'tamid shel shachar. I mean what we said before, Tzaras and all of that.
We're talking about person declining level, whatever it is, the white, and it's separate white and separate thing. Are you going back to that?
Yeah, now we're going back to that. Yeah, so you see like the two dots here throw me back to the Mishnah to restart. Let's go back to another few words of the Mishnah, and then the Gemara is going to explain it. So Maskin like Kayanach is a quote from the Mishnah that they designate another Kayan. When it says Pshita, Rabbi Psul Kaidem Tamid Shel Shachar Machan Chanayse B'Tamid Shel Shachar, there's something called China, inauguration, to get him into the service. So if there was Shemen HaMishcha, then they would use the oil. But that was only the Kayanim, the initial Kayanim, Aaron and his sons. After that, the Kayan Gadol, maybe, during the Bayis Rishon they had Shemen HaMishcha, but in the second Beis HaMikdash they only had clothing. So he needs to become a Kayan Gadol. You need to wear the Shemaina Begadim, the 8 clothing. I'm not sure how many of them they had. So the problem here is that on Yom Kippur he doesn't wear the 8 clothing because he's going to go in. He only wears the 4 clothing. Now he has to become a Kayan Gadol. So what's he going to do? So if the very first service of the day was not a Yom Kippur service, it was on Yom Kippur, but it wasn't Yom Kippur service. It was a Tamid Shel Shachar, right? Yeah, the clothing maker, yeah. That's what the yeshiva is saying, right? So you have to follow the dress code. So if the Kayan Gadol becomes tamei before the Tamid Shel Shachar, so the new Kayan comes in right at the beginning of the day. In the beginning of the day, he wears the Shemaina Begadim, the 8 garments. So then he becomes a Kohen Gadol by wearing those 8 garments at the beginning of the day, right? Everything's good. But how does he get inaugurated if they already brought the Tamid Shel Shachar, where he wears the 8 clothing? Now he's supposed to take off the 8 clothing and put on the linen clothing, right? And that's what a regular Kohen wears. So this guy's just going to walk in with his regular clothing and say, "Hi, I'm a Kohen Gadol," and they say, "Yeah, you look like the rest." What makes you a Kohen Gadol? You weren't wearing the Shemaina Begadim before. You're just the regular, because the clothing would be the same. No, the ephod was. What are the 4 Begadim? There's the pants, the robe, the ksainas, the hat, and the ephod and the gartel. Not the ephod, the avnei. The avnei is the gartel. What looked different? The hat. The hat looked a little different, but I don't think it made enough of a difference. Yeah, I think it was just it was higher or something. Amar Avada Barava, the avnei. Avada Barava says, well, he has a different belt. Now, what's happening here is like this. It's unclear, Chaim told us this before, what the belt of a kohen hedyot, a regular kohen, is made from. Is it made from linen or is it made from shatnez? The kohen gadol is made from shatnez. No, the kohen gadol has 2. One for the whole year, it's made from shatnez. And then he has one that he wears on Yom Kippur that's white linen. What about the kohen hedyot? Well, there's one opinion that says he has white linen. And the other opinion says that it's shatnez. Now, shatnez, oh, that's the same as the kohen gadol, just not on Yom Kippur. So, according to this opinion, that the kohen gadol and the kohen hedyot all had a shatnez, wool and linen gartel, avnei. So then there was only one linen gartel that was around. It was just this one single gartel. No one had a gartel like this. It was just the kohen gadol for Yom Kippur. So the Gemara says like this. I think it was still the same material. The same material. So, yeah. Yeah, it was complicated. Yeah, he wore 2. So Hani Chalaman Namar Avnei Shel Kohen Gadol Zeu Avnei Shel Kohen Hedyot. If we say that the Kohen Gadol and the Kohen Hedyot had the same gartel for the whole year, both kalayim shatnez, so then Yom Kippur, he puts on this one gartel that no one has except for the Kohen Gadol once a year. He puts it on. Oh, very good. He becomes the Kohen Gadol. But if you say that the Kohen Gadol's gartel is always shatnez, but the Kohen Hedyot's gartel is linen, and then on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol wears linen, so then he wears the same gartel. How does he become anything different? If you look at him, either he's a Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, or he's a Kohen Hedyot. So how does he become inaugurated as a Kohen Gadol? So, okay, Amar Abaya says, Leivish Shmeina umahapach b'tzinoira. You're right. He really doesn't have a service to do with the 8th clothing. But what we're going to do is we're going to give him just some extra job. He's going to put on the 8th clothing. It's going to become a Kohen Gadol. What's he going to do with the 8th clothing? He has to do a service. So he said, yeah, he's going to go up to the Mizbeach and he's going to turn something over on the Mizbeach, just with a fork. He's going to turn over some of the things that are burning.
We're saying that Hashem
Not for Hashem. He needs to become a Kohen Gadol by doing something. It's china.
Right.
So there's 2 options.
If you were the Kohen Gadol clothing in the beginning of the day.
So the Kohen Gadol wore the clothing in the beginning of the day. He's now a new Kohen Gadol because this Kohen Gadol got tameh. So he needs to put on the clothing. But the problem is there's no service for him to do because they already the next service is not done with the Shemaim Gadol. No, but there has to be an inauguration. The Ravuna. Amar Ravuna, it's like Ravuna says, Zor shapach b'tzinor chayiv misa. A zar that's talking about someone that's not a kohen that goes onto the mizbeach and he does a service even though it wasn't necessary. He just turned over the with the fork something that was up there on the mizbeach. He's chayiv misa. Obviously, that's a service. If that's the case, then the kohen gadol can do something like that. The new kohen gadol can do something like that, wearing the 8 clothing, and it's going to be considered a service. Rav Papa Amar Avedasei Nechan Chatai. Papa says just the behavior, just the doing of the service itself is going to be good enough. Like Yossi was saying, you don't actually have to do some ceremony, right? It's good enough. You just start acting like the kohen gadol. You start doing services. Obviously, you're the kohen gadol.
We get the parking space.
Yeah, for Shabbos only, parking spaces. Okay, Milay Tanya, was it not taught in a brisa? Kol hakelim shasam Moshe mishichasim mekadashtan. Taught in a brisa that all the vessels that Moshe made were anointed with the oil, and that's what sanctified them. After that, the avodah, this using them made them holy. Here also, when it comes to the person, the kohen gadol, the doing of the service itself makes him inaugurates him. Yeah, there's some big lessons here. Right. Someone this chassid moved to America, 1800s. So you see here, another chassid comes. He says, "What do you do? How do you make a living?" He says, "You go to the sign maker, and you have him make a sign that says Chief Rabbi of the town. You put it on your door, and that's how you start." Okay. Kiyasa Rabdimi, when Rabdimi came, so we're going to have two visitors, 2 travelers, Rabdimi and Ravin, right? When Rabdimi came, he said it like this: Amar Avneti Shalkayin Hedyat, the Avnei, the gartel of the Kayin Hedyat, it's really a machlekes Rebbe and Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. Did you know this? That it's Rebbe and Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon is Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai's son. He argues with Rebbe about this. Chad Amar Shel Kalayim, Chad Amar Shel Butz. We're talking about the gartel of the Kayin Hedyat. Was it shatnez or was it linen? And that was our discussion before. However, Testayim, when it says over here, when Rabdimi came, he didn't tell us who said what. It says, let it be settled, let it be clear. The Rebbe Yudam Shel Kalayim. That Rebbe is the one that says that it was Shabbat. The Tanya, because I have a brisa that says the following: Ein ben kayin gadol kayin hedyet ela avnei divrei Rebbe. So I think the answer to those questions and the similar type questions are that originally it wasn't like 100% decided exactly how it had to be, and then there would be one era. There was a Paisik, a great person that said, "No, this is how it has to be," and the Sanhedrin would decide that's how it is, and then there would be another. A generation or 2 later would say, "No, this is how it has to be." Another, then it was already determined. Originally, it could have been either. That's how we avoid the question of why didn't they ask, or why didn't they look it up, find the archaeology or something. So it would have to do at the time, if how it was possible. Arguing like what was the majority, what was the majority opinion. Okay, so here it's interesting. Rebbe and Rebbe Elazar bar Shimon say, one says that the Kohen Gadol was for sure shatnez the whole year. The Kohen Hedyot is a machlekes. It's either shatnez or just linen. Shatnez, it's wool and linen, or it's just linen. So the Gemara says that it must be that Rebbe is the one that says that it's kalayim. Why? Because we have a statement like this. It says that the Kohen Gadol and the Kohen Hedyot are exactly the same except for one difference, the belt. So how does that fit with that? Rebbe's one that says Kalayim, it sounds like they're the same. So hold on one second. Even the belt was not different. Amos, what are we talking about? Here's the big question. If we say we're talking about the whole year, a regular day of the year, so Tuveka, what do you mean there's no difference in Kohen Gadol and Kohen Hedyot? Kohen Gadol has 8 clothing. Kohen Gadol Mashamash B'Shmeinav Hedyot Barba. He has 8 clothing, the Kohen Hedyot only has 4. It must be that this discussion is talking about Anyim Kippur, where Rebbe comes along and says that the only difference between them is the gartel, because the Kohen Hedyot has the shatnez gartel. That's his opinion. And the Kohen Gadol has the linen one. So Rebbe is the one that says that the Kohen Hedyot always has Kalayim. That's Rebbe's opinion. Amri Loi. Not necessarily is that the pshat. We could say it different. Really, we're talking about the whole year. And we weren't talking about the whole Kohen Gadol with his 8 clothing. We're talking about in the Kohen Gadol's clothing, some of them were matching the same clothing as the Kohen Hedyot, and comes along Rebbe and says that the difference between them was the gartel, which means that Rebbe holds that the gartel of the Kohen Hedyot was made out of linen. Could be exactly the opposite. Kiyasa Ravin. So Ravin comes along from Eretz Yisrael, comes to Bavel, and he says over the teachings, Amar Rav Neita shel Kohen Gadol b'Yom Kippurim divrei kol shel butz. Everyone holds the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur wore a linen belt, linen gartel. B'Shayim Meisa Shana divrei kol shel Kalayim. But the rest of the year, everyone holds it was Kalayim. Okay, good. So far we knew that, right? L'ay nechlaku, the whole machlekes was only Ela b'Rav Neita shel Kohen Hedyot, regarding the gartel of the Kohen Hedyot, Bein b'Shayim Meisa Shana, Bein b'Yom Kippurim. He didn't change it on Yom Kippur. The whole year. What was it made out of? Sherebi Yomer Shel Kalayim. Rebbe says that it was shatnez. Rebbe Elazar Shimon Yomer Shel Butz. And Rebbe Elazar Shimon says it was linen. All year round for the Kohen Hedyot. But the difference between Ravin and Rav Dimi is that Ravin says it clearly, and Rav Dimi didn't tell it to us clearly. Let me stop over here.
Was this conversation with Bill? All these young guys like to wear that.